Hello everyone, I am Aparna Eri, Principal of DAV Public School, Sector-14, Gurugram. My dear friends, so last year when we came back after the pandemic, there was a lot of challenge that we all were facing. And the biggest challenge that we realized was the lack of reading habits amongst the children. It was I would say a very Herculean task, but we took a number of steps like organizing literature conclaves, inter-school competitions, inter-house competitions and a number of other events. And I am very sure other schools also would have done the same. So this came to my mind, why not analyze that the efforts that we are taking, what are the results of these efforts and how can we strengthen them further. So when this concept came to my mind, I immediately contacted our team and we thought, let's start with this project. The aim of this project is to analyze the reading habits of the children. Now, we did not want to remain confined to our school only, but we wanted a wider coverage of different parts of the country because all cities have different dynamics. Metros, smaller towns, rural areas, remote areas, everywhere challenges are going to be different. So with keeping this perspective in mind, we are going to collect data from schools from different regions. First and foremost would be our school, plus few schools which are situated in Gurugram, in the outskirts of Gurugram, in hubs like Chennai and Mumbai, or in remote areas of Northeast. So the idea is a wider variety of, I would say, a wider option amongst the children that we will get. I wish all the best to all my team, and after this project, I will get back to you with the results.
Reading plays a significant role in students' life. Readers want to read as per their choice. They can read fiction, non-fiction, biographies, autobiographies. The options are endless. Reading not only enhances vocabulary, it also enriches the expression, verbal and written. A lot of literary activities that keep happening in the school also promote all these skills.
In addition to that, many focus activities that are done in school like Melange Literary Fest, Literary Conclave and the workshops for the budding authors have surely and significantly promoted reading habits among children. Being an English teacher, I get the opportunity of taking children to library and I also witness how enthusiastic and overwhelming response do they give while searching for the books.
So to cater to such readers, we need a paradigm shift in the libraries. Conventional libraries to Library 2.0, which is going.
Warm greetings to everyone hearing me out today. We all live in post-pandemic era. Yes, we can call it an era that marks the beginning of the world too much dependent on, rather supported by social media, artificial intelligence and technology.
But reading has its own value. And you see, I personally feel nothing can beat that smell of a new book when we hold it in our hands. Old books have their own musty, distinct kind of smell. Besides, when we hold a book, that gives us immense pleasure and that we have been longing for a long time to read.
So definitely the reading habits have not changed much, but still I find that they are not much interested in reading. In reading, you have to concentrate on the concept or the information or whatever it is, and then only we have to come into a judgment.
But we should not stop, because if we accuse us as teachers, we have to come forward for the betterment of the students.
Maybe it is a Gen Z or the millennials, maybe they are out of practice, but I have a complete understanding that each individual, whether they are hooked onto their mobile phones or the social media, are reading one form of literature or the other.
But I would like to say books are apparently the favorite option for the parents to keep their children engaged at home. It can't replace the joy of playing with the friends in the park, but it is better to play the games or looking at the videos of gaming on the mobile phone.
Now, after the pandemic, when everything has turned again offline, students, they are still in the habit of reading e-books, and now they also go to the library to issue books and read.
यदि वो चाहें तो अपनी व्यस्ततम दिनचर्या से कुछ पल निकालें, अपने बच्चों के साथ बैठें, उन्हें कहानियाँ सुनाएं, उनसे कहानियाँ सुने, उन्हें कहानियों की पुस्तकें ला कर दें। यदि आप ऐसा करेंगे तो वो दिन दूर नहीं कि हमारे बच्चे पुनः पढ़ाई में रुचि लेने लगेंगे और संस्कारी व नैतिक बनेंगे। धन्यवाद।
Books are the constant companions who keep me engrossed and help me plunge into the world full of various characters, stories, and help me learn new things every day. Famous authors like Sudha Murthy, Ruskin Bond, Thea Silton, and Blyton have always inspired me with their books.
When the pandemic hit India, I wasn't able to visit my bookstores or buy books from Amazon because it wasn't safe. So I used to read my books through ebooks and Kindle.
The last time I picked up a book, I was searching through the bookstores, the libraries, or the brown shelves. But this time, after the pandemic or during the pandemic, I found myself scrolling pages of the school library, which was sent by DAV school itself.
But you know, it just doesn't feel right to read ebooks which are stored in a computer. It really feels wrong. So I insisted on buying new books and kept on reading them. This helped me build my own personal library. Now I have a lot of mythology books, a lot of Geronimo books, a lot of studying books, and a lot of facts books in my library.
No matter your age, no matter your personality, no matter your time, I encourage all of you in fact, to keep on reading and never let go of your passion. Thank you and happy reading.
Reading, it technically means looking at the written symbols, but I do believe something magical can happen if you read a book. My reading journey started from a book named as The Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking.
At the present scenario, students often choose virtual medium of learning instead of learning through books.
So reading books have so much helped me at COVID time because they reduced my all stress, increased my concentration and memory, and they motivate me to live more.
My school sent home ebooks for us to read. At first I pondered, books? Why of all the things, books? But then I gave it a shot. The first book I read was this, The Silver Sword.
There were many types of books developed during this period, like e-books or audiobooks. As we couldn't go to the shops to purchase books physically, we relied on e-books or audiobooks.
Personally, I think this was for our own better good, and honestly, we were now able to access the e-books anywhere, anytime.
These books gave me the knowledge that I still remember today. Post-COVID, I was more interested in reading books about the past, the mythology, and fictional books based on mythology. I also used to read books about zodiac signs and the current affairs of the world.
The skill of quickly and accurately reading aloud has been stopped after the abrupt closing down of schools by COVID-19. Gains in these skills were very stronger, but they weren't enough to cope up with the loss that children have faced during the pandemic.
I love reading. I started reading a long time ago and have an older sister who is a bookworm like me. She inspired my reading habits. When I grew up, I bought books with my pocket money. I took books from the school library, finished them in a day or two, then took another one. After the pandemic, I started using ebooks, and now I can finish a 400-page book in 3 hours.
Before COVID, I used to love reading books. But during COVID, I felt like it is more convenient to find ebooks and read online. It too had some advantages, as I didn't need to go out to buy books during COVID period.
So I just tried reading normal books and my reaction was amazing. Day by day my vocabulary was increasing and I was becoming a good reader. But at the same time, daily books are having advantages and disadvantages, and normal books are not having any disadvantages.
Remember when we came back after COVID, what happened in COVID for the past 2 years? Children were at home, glued more to the online media, physical reading of books was not there. Although we definitely found a few children in our school who created their own libraries, purchased their books, and developed and continued with their reading habit. But a big setback came when the children came back to school and we found that they were unable to read, or the interest in reading had gone down. So that is the time when I really felt we need to do something, and a lot of initiatives were taken up, I know, across the country at different places where literature conclaves were organized, and the aim was to bring back this passion of reading amongst the children.
The following figure shows us the purpose of reading by the respondents. It shows us how 45.5% of the respondents read for pleasure, 30.9% for the purpose of academics, and 23.6% for research purposes. The next figure shows us the types of readers, out of which 61.8% are occasional readers, 30.5% are avid readers, and 7.8% don't read at all. The next figure shows us the preferred mode of reading by the respondents. We see that digital mode is preferred by 21.9% and print is preferred by 78.1% of the respondents. The next figure exhibits the medium of reading of respondents. Majority of respondents, that is 87.8% of them, rely on printed medium of books. 8.8% prefer ebooks and only 3.4% refer to audiobooks and periodicals. The following figure represents the type of literature preferred by our respondents. Stories were the most preferred at 90%, followed by both essays and poetry at 5% each. The following figure represents the availability of online library resources. Schools of 61.4% respondents had availability of online library resources, whereas those of other 38.6% did not. The next figure portrays the distribution of literary activities planned by the respective schools. We see how literary festivals were organized by 33.8% of schools, World Book Day is celebrated by 36.2% of schools, literature conclaves by 6.8% of schools, and book weeks by 16.4% of schools. We also witness how 23.2% of schools did not organize any literary activities. The next figure shows the impact of literary activities conducted in these schools. 80.8% were inspired to read, whereas the activities made no difference to 19.2% of the respondents. The following figure depicts the preferred time of reading for our respondents. 51.2% of them preferred reading before bedtime, 25.8% in the afternoon, and the remaining 23% in the morning. The next figure shows the preferred place of reading of the respondents. 70.4% of them preferred reading at home, 23.6% of them preferred reading at the school library, 4.6% of them preferred reading in natural surroundings, and the other 1.4% preferred reading in a book or coffee shop. The next figure shows us the book length as a selection criteria. 39.3% of respondents preferred reading a 100 to 250 page long book, 31.9% respondents preferred reading a book around 100 pages, 20.8% of respondents preferred reading a 250 to 500 long page book, whereas only 8% of respondents preferred a 500 page or more long book. Now, we see book appearance as a selection criteria. 41.4% of the respondents chose a book based on its cover. The next 30% chose it on the basis of its illustrations. 16.9% of them chose it on the basis of the text, whereas 11.7% of respondents chose it on the basis of its blurb. The next figure highlights the use of bibliographic details as a criteria for selection of a book. 51.4% of respondents opt for a book on the basis of title, whereas only 2.3% choose a book because of its publisher. 20% of respondents chose a book on the basis of its author, and 26.3% choose it because of its existing series. The next figure presents to us the various sources of book recommendation to readers. 36.1% of readers get their books from their friends, while 23% get it from random sources. 18.3% of readers choose a book on the basis of their institutions, whereas 10.9% get it from social media. And lastly, 11.7% of total respondents opt for books based on offline or online reading lists. The following figure depicts the medium of procurement of books by the respondents. Purchasing was the respondents' top medium of procurement at 50.5%, followed by borrowing from library and borrows from friends at 30.2% and 19.3% respectively. The next figure highlights how 25.8% respondents considered themselves to be budding authors, while 48.6% do not, and 25.6% weren't sure of it yet. This figure shows us the use of books post-reading by the respondents. 59.6% of them used it to build up their collection, 36.1% of the respondents donated, whereas 4.3% of them disposed it off. The following figure shows us the impact of pandemic on reading habits. 58.6% of the respondents say that their reading habits have improved during the pandemic. 31.4% of them say that their reading habits have stayed the same, and 10% of the respondents say that their habits have worsened.
Hello everyone. A few months back, I shared with you about our concern regarding the reading habits of the students. So, as shared earlier, we started with this action research project on finding out the reading habits of the children. I really got a great response from different schools, around 15-16 schools who were involved with us in collecting sample. I am really grateful to all the principals, teachers and students of these schools whose contribution was very important for us for data collection as well as analysis. My special thanks to my team, especially the library team, teachers and a group of 17 students who really helped in data analysis, collection, videography, preparing the report and coming to the conclusions. So here I am with you, in front of you with these conclusions. The first and important thing that we realized was that print media is still trending. This is a very, very positive and motivating conclusion, because when we started with this project, somehow we felt that because of the social media, maybe children are now moving away from the books. But the good news is that due to the pandemic, children have come back to books, and at some places they have even developed their own libraries at home. So my best wishes to all these children: keep up, never lose hope, because books are your best friends. Regarding the different genres, when we look at that, we found that the motivation and self-help books are at the topmost priority, followed by autobiographies and biographies. When we talk of time allocation, we got a divided response, and the children generally shared or divided their time between book reading as well as between the preferred book length. And what motivates a child to select a book? You will be surprised to know the book cover and illustrations play a very, very important role. We will be presenting this report in different forms, in print media also, and during this our short video also. But I would like to say that reading is still in vogue, and I would say our mission is accomplished. Thank you once again for being a part of this project and helping us realize our dream about to collect data and information about the reading habits of children in the age group of classes 6 to 10. Thank you.